that actively, well, let me back up and say it this way. Were you instructed that the law prohibits anyone from serving on the canvassing board who actively supported the candidate in the election?
Not that I recall.
And you served on the board?
The canvassing board?
Yes.
Yes.
And Mr. Watson served?
Yes.
And Roseanne Moore served?
Yes.
Now, in addition to the three members of the board and Mr. Henderson, who else from the city as a part of the official group that was doing the canvassing participated?
At what time?
Well, the board member meeting began at 11, I think. I saw it at 8 o'clock.
Correct.
Beginning of that time.
Okay. On the dais, we had the three members of the canvassing board, and we had our city attorney, Marion Rush, and then Mr. Henderson was available performing his functions, and then we had Ms. Henderson and I believe Ms. Morgan performing their duties.
Okay. Now, what documents or reports or logs did Mr. Henderson bring to the meeting and provide to?
He provided, while we were sitting on the dais, the list of the absentee voters that had been certified by Cam Carpenter's office. He brought lists that Ms. Carpenter had signed saying these people are registered as voters in Alachua County. As I recall, I think they were on 3 separate sheets, I believe. And he provided that. And he provided another list of the absentee voters that that reflected, I believe, and I'm trying to go by memory on that particular list of who had requested absentee ballots, but I don't remember the exact details of that, but that was furnished to us as we were on the dais before the meeting actually got started.
So those two documents, and then you said there was an instruction sheet. Anything else?
There was, in that package, there was a form that would also be executed at the end, saying that we had certified the results of the election.
All right, we'll see that in a few minutes. Now, these lists of absentee voters that you referred to, what became of yours?
I have my list. I keep my documents stapled together.
We'd like to have a copy of those, please. You don't have them here in the city hall. So I didn't know whether you had a place you kept them in City Hall, whether you got an office at home.
I have a place here.
Okay. Now, did you have any occasion, well, let me ask this question this way. When did you arrive to participate in the canvassing board meeting?
I was across the street I was over at the fire station when they were calling out the results, when they had closed the polls over there. I stayed in the general area. I was in the parking lot, talking with citizens, came on in, stood out front and talked with people, and then came on into the city chambers here and sat in the audience for a while and spoke with the citizens, and then came on up to the dais, probably about 7:30, 20 till 8, something in that neighborhood.
Did you have occasion to go in Mr. Henderson's office during that period of time? And when was it? How did the absentee ballots actually get here to this room?
Mr. Henderson brought them in.
And do you know where they were before then?
I don't know. I would assume that they were in his possession. I was in this area, so I really don't know.
And Mr. Henderson was responsible for the security of these ballots. I'm going to hand you a document that's referred to as Plaintiff's Exhibit 4. And at the head it states valid accounting form, City of Alachua election, April 11, 2006. And it's a document that's 9 pages long. And I'd like to hand that to you and ask you first if I appear to have identified it correctly.
Yes, you have.
Would you examine that document, please, just casually, and then I'll ask you some more specific questions. Do you recall having seen that document before?
I recall seeing it, but I can't tell you when exactly I saw it.
It's not one of the documents you listed as having been given to you in the canvassing board, so it would have been some time later, earlier.
I don't recall seeing it there at the canvassing board. I don't recall seeing it as a part of that package.
Now, what is the precinct number of the fire station?
I don't
You
remember
don't know.
that right off the top of my head.
Take a look at page 005, if you will. You see the notation there that in the left-hand side up toward the middle top, that there are 4 provisional ballots.
Yes, sir.
And then do you see further down that line that there are 14 TSX provisional ballots?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now I'd like to show you what is Plaintiff's Exhibit 5. Certificate of election results, April 11, 2006, City election, City of Alachua, Florida, and ask you first if I fairly identified it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is this the document that you mentioned earlier that you had given to you in blank at the beginning of the canvassing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You notice that the second to the end from the right column there is the provisional ballots.
Yes, sir.
And that form indicates that there were no provisional ballots, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so the canvassing board, in fact, did not canvass any provisional ballots, did it?
We didn't reflect that on this particular form. So I guess that would be an assumption.
You don't recall having canvassed any provisional ballots, do you?
Not that I recall. There were 2 that we rejected for the absentee ballots.
Absentee ballots, yes. Do you know where those provisional ballots are?
No, sir, I don't.
Were you told at the meeting that the law gives rejected provisional ballot voters 3 days after the election, up through 3 days after the election?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part.
I'm sorry. Were you told at the meeting that the law gives rejected provisional ballot voters up to 3 days to establish the validity of their votes?
That may have been announced, but I don't recall specifically.
But the board, in fact, issued its report that night.